Hare Krishna devotees. I'll chant a little Jagannatha. Jai Radha Manana Jai Radha Madhava Jai Gopi Janavalabha Vivarada Gopi Janavalabha Vivarada Yashodanandana Bhagavan Yashodanandana Bhagavan Yamunatira Vannachari Yamunatira Vannachari Radha Madhava Vihara Jai Radha Madhava Vihara Gopi Janavalabha Vivaradari Gopi Janavalabha Vivaradari Yashodanandana Bhagavan Yashodanandana Bhagavan Yamunatira Vannachari Yamunatira Vannachari Jai Radha Madhava Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Bihari Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradari Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Bhajajanavantava Yashodanandana Bhajajanavantava Yamunatira Vannachari Yamunatira Vannachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Guru Deva, Guru Deva, Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva. Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva. Haribo, 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 Nitai Gora, Haribo, Nitai Gora, Haribo, 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 Nitai Gora, Haribo. Mustafa Paramahansa Vichaya Apita Srimad Bhagavatam Swami Mustafa Paramahansa. All glories to the Son of the Lord. Glories to the Son. All glories to the Lord. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Thank you for coming this early in the morning. We have so many other duties. We're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 31, Text 13.
I'm not certain, but I think it's
Atmahya Vadirartata Sarvesham Api Bhutanam Avir Atmat Madapriya Treyasham Api Sarvesham Atmahya Vadirartata Sarvesham Api Bhutanam Avir Atmadapriya Treyasham Api Sarvesham Atmahya Vadirartata Sarvesham Api Bhutanam Avir Atmadapriya Hari Atmadapriya. Word for word. Well, thank you, Tarka Prabhu, for putting the verse in the chat. Treyasham of auspicious activity. Api, certainly. Sarvesham, all. Atma, the self. He, certainly. Avadi, destination. Artata, factual. Sarvesham, of all. Api, certainly. Bhutanam, living entities. Hari, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Atma, the Supersoul. Atma Daha, who can give us our original identity. Priyaha, very dear. Translation. Factually, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the original source of all self-realization. Consequently, the goal of all auspicious activities, karma, jnana, yoga, and bhakti, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport. The living entity is the marginal energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the material world is the external energy. Under this circumstance, one must understand that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is factually the original source of both matter and spirit. This is explained in the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Bhumirapo nalo vayu, kamano buddhirevacha, ankara itiyam me, vina prakritirastada, aparayam tastvanyam, prakritim vidi me param, jiva bhutam mahabaho, yayedam daryate jagat. Translation from Bhagavad Gita 7, 4, and 5. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. All together, these 8 comprise my separated material energies. But besides this inferior nature, O mighty armed Arjuna, there is a superior energy which consists of all living entities who are struggling with material nature and are sustaining the universe. The entire cosmic manifestation is but a combination of matter and spirit. The spiritual part is the living entity. And these living entities are described as property or energy. The living entity is never described as Purusha, the Supreme Person. Therefore, to identify the living entity with the Supreme Lord is simply ignorance. The living entity is the marginal potency of the Supreme Lord, although there is factually no difference between the energy and the energetic. The duty of the living entity is to understand his real identity. When he does, Krishna gives him all the facilities to come to the platform of devotional service. That is the perfection of life. This is indicated in the Vedic Upanishad. Yame Vaisha Vinute Tena Labhyas Ayasha Atma Vinute Tamanuswan. I looked at that verse, and it's from the Mundaka Upanishad 3:2-3. And that verse says, anyone who is favored by the Supreme Personality of Godhead can understand his transcendental name, qualities, form, and pastimes. And that's quoted in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila 9, 126. Going on with the purport, Lord Krishna confirms this in Bhagavad Gita 10:10. Tesham satatayuktanam paditam kriti purvakam dadami buddhi yogantam yenamam upiyanti. To those who are constantly devoted and worship me with love, I give the understanding which they can come to. The conclusion is that one must come to the platform of Bhakti Yoga. Even though one may begin with Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, or Stanga Yoga, unless one comes to the platform of Bhakti Yoga, self-realization or realization of the absolute truth cannot be achieved. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Deva Gauravani Pacharani Nirvishesha Srimati Askachari Sachari Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasti Gaura Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Vanchakalpatrudascha Singadevacha Titanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo. Thank you, dear devotees, for your presence and encouragement, especially Sarvama for encouraging and pushing me. And I'm praying that you all will pray for me as I try to share something that, first of all, for my own purification, and also that may in some way be beneficial to your Krishna consciousness, our Krishna consciousness. So here in this verse, Narada Muni is continuing to give his instructions and explanations. And I'll read the verse again. Factually, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the original source of all self-realization. Consequently, the goal of all auspicious activities, karma, jnana yoga, and bhakti, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, Srila Prabhupada uses the word factually as he translates this. That factually, the Supreme Personality of God is the original source. He's the karanam, source of all, cause of all causes. So he's also the cause of self-realization, source of all self-realization. And Srila Prabhupada he says something interesting to me. He says in the second sentence in the purport, he said, well, I'll read the sentence before that too. The living entity is the marginal energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the material world is the external energy. Then he says, under the circumstances, one must understand that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is factually the original source of both matter and spirit. And so he says, under the circumstances, but really, it's another way of saying factually that under the circumstances, which really there are no other circumstances, that there's matter and there's spirit, right? the entire creation. It's all coming from Krishna. So he could actually say under the absolute circumstances, or the circumstances of every living entity, or the circumstances of the entire creation. So it's interesting, he says, under the circumstances, one must understand that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is factually the original source of both matter and spirit. And the verse also talks about that consequently, since Krishna is the source of all self-realization, any path that one is on, karma, jnana, yoga, and bhakti, all, the goal of all is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And people understand that to varying degrees, depending on the path that they follow. And Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 4:11 that all of them, as they surrender unto me, I reward accordingly. And everyone follows my path in all respects. So whatever path anyone is on, whether they realize it or not, they're searching for Krishna. So even if one is actually engaged in just karma, actions and reactions, trying to enjoy the material world, the desire to enjoy is a natural propensity of the soul. That's our natural state. So, but that person who is trying to enjoy or enjoy the material world or enjoy sense gratification is also searching for Krishna. It's really also searching for love, but searching in all the wrong places. And as yesterday, Sri was reading, what the world needs is love, and that love is really in the form of a touch of devotion service. The Prabhupada said that in the purport. All these require a touch of devotion service. So the karma, the jnana, the yoga, they need a touch of bhakti. And how does that come? That comes through the mercy of Krishna. How does that mercy of Krishna come? Through the mercy of the devotees. In the mood of Lord Chaitanya. So these other paths, they're, trying to understand truth through mental speculation, trying to perform austerities in yogic postures and so many penances and austerities. These are indirect ways of achieving self-realization. But for a bhakti yoga, for a bhakti yogi, it's the direct connection, the jet path. And so, and even though there's different stages of devotees, no matter what stage we're on, whether we're sadhana bhakti, ragatmika bhakti, we're all engaged in the same activities, devotional service. So the difference between devotees is the intensity of devotion. So one may have pure intensity of devotion constantly and uninterrupted, and that's the pure devotee. And every devotee is also doing the same types of things engaged in the same devotion services. And becoming more and more purified as we intensify our devotion. So anyone practicing bhakti on whatever level, we're watering the tree. We're watering the root. We're offering all to Krishna. And so the goal is already there. The process is already there. And the goal is to engage in devotional service. The process is to engage in devotional service. So someone in the path of Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga, or austerities, or searching for trying to become one with the Lord. All these paths are like stepping stones. They're not the complete realization of Krishna. They're not the complete path to realization of Krishna. But Krishna says they're all on the path. So one can, just like if you're climbing a ladder, you take one step up, take another step up. You may even take 2 steps up, but you have to go progressively like that. But with Bhakti Yoga, you could just take the elevator straight to the top. If you're in the transcendental boat, then we can traverse the waves of this material ocean by the mercy of the spiritual God. And so, speaking of goals, the verse says that consequently, the goal of all auspicious activities is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And I was reflecting on that about goals and the different goals that one may have in their services. Ultimately, that we want to completely please Krishna. And I was thinking about a couple of examples of how in our services together as devotees, we want to cooperate. We want to work together. We want to please Krishna together. And the more we can do that in a mood of cooperation, that pleases Srila Prabhupada. And but at the same time, we have our many different perspectives about how things can go. We have our angles of vision naturally. And I was thinking about this example of Duryodhana and Yudhishthira, how when it was for sure that the war was going to happen, this battle of Kurukshetra, there was no way of working it out. Krishna, Duryodhana, and Dhritarashtra wouldn't even listen to Krishna himself. Their goal was to achieve the kingdom, to maintain the kingdom, and to remove any obstacle to that goal. So when it was inevitable that the battle was going to take place, Duryodhana and Arjuna went to see Krishna to gain his support. When they got there, Duryodhana got there first. And so they both went to Krishna, who was resting. And Duryodhana went straight to Arjuna's to his head, to the head of the bed where Krishna's head was. And Yudhisthira stood at his feet. And so when Krishna opened his eyes, he saw Arjuna at his feet, who was just in tears, just happy to be with Krishna. And Duryodhana immediately said, I got here first, so you should hear my request first. And Krishna said, but I saw Arjuna first, and I opened my eyes, and so he gave Arjuna the opportunity to express his request, which was, of course, both were there for the same thing, wanting Krishna's support. So Krishna said, I will help both of you, but I'll give Arjuna a choice. You can have me, or you can have my army. And Arjuna, without hesitation at all, just, of course, he chose Krishna. And Duryodhana, in his heart, he was just bubbling with joy. I mean, like, wow, his goal is to achieve the kingdom. And he feels that if he's got this army, Krishna, I want the army, because with Krishna's energies, then I'll be victorious. And the more I have of his energies, then the more chance I'll be victorious. And Duryodhana immediately said, thank you, and left. He got what he wanted. And then Krishna asked Arjuna, why did you choose me instead of my army? And Arjuna just said that because I know that with you there's always victory, which was the concluding statement by Sanjay also, that wherever Arjuna is and wherever Krishna is, there will always be victory. And also there was this love and affection. Naturally, Arjuna and his relationship with Krishna wants to always be with Krishna. Krishna is his worshipful Lord and his friend. He's his teammate no matter what. So naturally he chose him. And so whatever the goal is, that will determine our choices. And if we always choose Krishna, just like in the challenges that we face in our lives, situations that come up constantly, if we choose Krishna, and if we trust that Krishna has a plan, that there's a higher purpose behind everything, that despite how I feel, how the mind kicks me around, or how much I want to blame others or implicate someone else for my own reactions, somehow Krishna is behind it all. Tate nu kampam sushamixtamano. That whatever happens is due to the effects of my own sinful activities. I want to read that verse, Bhagavatam 14:8. My dear Lord, one who earnestly waits for you to bestow your causeless mercy upon him, all the while patiently suffering the reactions of his past misdeeds, and offering you respectful obeisances with his heart, words, and body, is surely eligible for liberation, for it has become his rightful claim. And that purport, second paragraph, Srila Prabhupada says, the word Shushamakshmana indicates that a devotee earnestly awaits the mercy of the Supreme Lord, even while suffering the painful effects of previous sinful activities. Lord Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita that a devotee who fully surrenders unto him is no longer liable to suffer the reactions of his previous karma. However, because in his mind, the devotee may still maintain the remnants of his previous sinful mentality, the Lord removes the last vestige of the enjoying spirit by giving his devotee punishments that may sometimes resemble sinful reactions. The purpose the purpose of the entire creation of God is to rectify the living entity's tendency to enjoy without the Lord, and therefore the particular punishment given for sinful activity is specifically designed to curtail the mentality that produced the activity. So I was listening to a class by my godbrother at Vaitacharya recently, and he said that the whole universe conspires. The whole universe conspires to teach us something to that effect. So that's similar to this point in this purport. That the purpose of the entire creation of God is to rectify the living entity's tendency to enjoy without the Lord. And there was one other point I wanted to share that Prabhupada mentions Bhagavad Gita 10:10. He also talks about these points about karma, jnana, and yoga. When a person knows the goal of life, but is addicted to the fruits of activity, he is acting in karma yoga. When he knows that the goal is Krishna, but he takes pleasure in mental speculation to understand Krishna, he is acting in jnana yoga. And when he knows the goal and seeks Krishna completely in Krishna consciousness and devotional service, he is acting in bhakti yoga or buddhi yoga, which is the complete yoga. This complete yoga is the highest perfectional stage of life. So goals are very important. And always reminding ourselves of the goal helps us to stay on track towards the goal. So we constantly need reminders like Bhagavatam classes, so many other things, the association of devotees, kirtan, all these things remind us of what our highest goal is. And this connection about goals, I was thinking about the example of Daksha, because he had a big role to play as a progenitor, Prajapati, in the affairs of the universe. So, and in his duties, he's there with the demigods, and they were about to perform a sacrifice. And when he came in the assembly, he was, you know, practically like a demigod himself. He is a demigod. And, he was very effulgent. And all the attendants, Brahmins and so on, rose up to greet him out of respect, except for Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva. Lord Brahma is his father. But he was offended that Lord Shiva didn't also stand and give him that respect. Because Daksha had married, Sita, Sati, Daksha's daughter, married Lord Shiva. And so, in Daksha's mind, Lord Shiva is my son-in-law. So, he did not honor him. So, I'll make it a little short. In the end, he offended Lord Shiva. There was all this counter cursing going on because, he just really talked bad about Lord Shiva. It's really offended. And eventually, Sati ended up taking her life. And that's when Lord Shiva got really angry. Took a hair out of his head and boom, created this Virabhadra, whose sole purpose was to behead Daksha. And so Daksha was killed. But then he had another chance. He took birth again, actually from the potatoes, from the 10 potatoes. And this time, he had 10,000 sons, and was, of course, same Prajapati. He's actually trying to populate the universe, the earth. So Narada Muni saw these boys doing their austerities, and he preached to them, why do these austerities just for material activities? Perform devotion service. So he liberated them all. And of course, Daksha was quite sad about that. But then he had another 1,000 sons and instructed them to propagate. But before they do that, they'd have to perform their austerities. Narada Muni did the same thing. Preached to them and brought them back to Godhead. So Daksha cursed Narada Muni to that you will never be able to stay in one place. He'd also cursed Lord Shiva, too, back in the previous life. So the point I'm making is that Daksha he had actually done a lot of austerities even before having his sons, and he actually was praying to Lord Vishnu, and actually got the darshan of saying these Hamsa. What is it? The Hamsa Guya prayers. Very wonderful prayers. And to Lord Vishnu, he actually got his darshan. But then it was just for the purpose of propagation. It was an important role to play. And that was his service. Narada Muni also had a service. So there was a conflict in the services. and due to that, even though Daksha had been blessed with direct association with Vishnu. Later, he still actually got very upset with Narada Muni and cursed him. And so the point was is that as we serve with others and we're all trying to become Krishna conscious, we sometimes can get diverted from the real goal, due to false ego, envy, or attachment. And we may become more me conscious than Krishna conscious in those situations. But those are opportunities, for purification. And we can see how in this pastime with Daksha that things that are not worked out in one life can carry out into the next life. And that's a vivid example. And of course, he ended up with a goat head in that pastime. So going back to the verse, I'm going to open up for questions or comments, corrections, or anything in a second. Factually, this is the verse again. Factually, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the original source of all self-realization. Consequently, the goal of all auspicious activity, karma, jnana, yoga, bhakti, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So I'll stop there and see if anyone has any comments or questions. Just one other, while you're thinking of questions or comments. I was also thinking about how, it's so, we all have our natures, and our particular ways of seeing things, Atmavan, Tejika. And sometimes the biggest growth opportunities for growth is in letting go of how I see things, letting go of what I think is the right way, or the only way, or the best way to do something or achieve something. So I was thinking also, what comes to mind is Dhritarashtra, how no matter what, he would not change his mind about what he was going to do as far as the kingdom. It was like it was his destiny and his dharma. He stuck to it no matter what. That was his goal. And it's such a critical thing. If we can make a small, subtle shift in our surrender, then that can go a long way in our Krishna consciousness. Any comments or questions? Anybody?
Hi, Krishna. Good morning. Thank you
Hi,
so much
Krishna.
for Hi, Krishna. Thank you so much for the class, Prabhu. It was wonderful. And for me, what really, really touched me was when you said that these can be stepping stones. You know, that some devotees, I think, come right away to bhakti, and that's just amazing and miraculous. But for me, it was more that exact path in this verse. And for me, what really was amazing in coming into bhakti, because I was a very devout Christian, but a lot of Christianity for me was, people were always talking about getting to heaven, and they could describe heaven in complete detail, but not who you were going to be in heaven. They weren't talking about God so much as a personality. And then in coming to bhakti, here's this all attractive Krishna, you know, um, who reciprocates, and it was just so amazing for me. And I started in karma in a health field that brought me to wanting to know more on a metaphysical level in healing, that took me to learning Ashtanga or Hatha Yoga. And then my teacher, one who really struck me, was in the philosophy of yoga, and she was a Shiva Bhakta. And she had us saying this, chanting this, I guess, bhajan, Loka Samista Sukhino Bhavantu, may all beings be happy and free. And one of the things we had to do was say this every morning. And I would go down by the water where I lived and say this every morning. Now, little did I know that Krishna was listening and that I was going to be included in those beings that were going to be happy and free. But then one of the readings was Bhagavad Gita. And we had these two translations, one by Stephen somebody and one by Eknath Eswaran. And I'm reading this, and literally, I'd like to say out of the blue, but I know it was Krishna's arrangement. It comes to my mind. I have this book. My brother gave me this book like a bazillion years ago. I have this little blue copy of this book. Let me find it. And I did. And then I had this longing that had been stuffed down for so many years to find my brother. And I went to lunch with my teacher, and I said, I have a brother that's a Swami. It's like the weirdest thing. Every time we're doing the warrior sequence and I'm reaching, I can like feel him reaching for me. And then I found out how to get in touch with him directly. And here I am, and that's the stepping stones. But I think all last week and this week, what touched me the most, and I'm in a female body, so I get a little more emotional with it and maybe less intellectual, was how this is a relationship. That devotional service is a relationship with Krishna, that when we chant, Krishna is there. That when we read Srimad Bhagavatam, I had never has anyone said to me the Holy Bible is the literary incarnation of God in your home, ever. And when I heard that about Srimad Bhagavatam, it was like my heart exploded, my brain opened up, just everything opened up. And so for me, it's a very personal thing. And I think that devotional service it's a love relationship. And then to come here and find out that Krishna will reciprocate according to our nature. Maybe you want to be a servant. Maybe you want to be a friend. Maybe you want to be a mother. How amazing is that? To have a relationship with a being that responds to you and meets you where you are truly and unconditionally. So thank you so much for this class and all the classes. And just to be on this path, this is a miracle. What a miracle. Thank you. Haribol.
Wow, thank you for sharing that. Practical example. You should be giving the class. Actually, you did. Perfect example of the stepping stones, the ladder, and Krishna just revealing in time, just gradually, because everybody has their particular journey, their own path, and it's so individual for each person. You think about how so many people are envious and they're trying to live the life of someone else, or trying to achieve happiness in a way that they think that somebody else is achieving, rather than searching within, getting happiness within, you know, and trying to find the path for them, you know, which will eventually take them to, you know, that's the road less traveled. Everybody's own particular journey is becoming more and more the road less traveled because of all the mass distractions, you know, in this world, you know, because there's so many other roads to take that are being exposed to us and bombarding us, you know, rather than looking within, rather than seeing how I can love another person, you know, seeing how who created all this and uh, what is my relationship with existential questions. That journey is the journey that we're all taking, and we all came in our own individual ways. Thank you, Lila Kishore, for sharing yours. Mother Raja Lila, Haribo.
Haribo, JP, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for a beautiful class. And thanks to Sarabha Prabhu for encouraging everyone to attend your class. That's a nice support system that you had. Haribo, thank you very much. Sorry, devotees, I don't have on tilak because I really tried. I made an effort, as Sarabha Prabhu asked, to be here under the class. I did make an effort. So thanks, Leela Kishore. Beautiful, beautiful sharing. Thank you so much. Yeah. Jagannath Pandit Prabhu, I have a question based on, you said, you gave us so many beautiful nuggets. A couple of things that I honed into was you saying we all have our different natures and people see things, you know, in their own particular way. And then you went on to speak about small shifts in our surrender that can go a long way. And so a person's perspective could be, yeah, why don't you make a small shift and surrender and do some devotional service at the temple? So how would you respond to that?
The way I respond to that is, I agree, actually, you know, and at the same time, you know, everyone is doing their own service. You know, everybody is engaged in some kind of way. You know, we're all devoted and we all have our own services. But the temple is the center, you know, and we all should find some way to connect in some kind of way in service to Radha Damodar or even to Radha Damodar servants. And that way we're connecting and cooperating, serving with each other and encouraging each other. This way you were just talking about Sarvatma Prabhu encouraging. It's also encouraging when you have more people assisting, and it's like, you know, we're in this together kind of move, and that creates a family, that creates a powerful community, that creates cooperation, that creates you know, it creates synergy. That's the word, synergy. So that, in a nutshell, is what I would say. But you know, we also have to respect that people can do what they can do, and we can always do more than what we think we can. But we cannot force service. cannot force someone to serve in a way that we think they ought to serve. And that's love also. I mean, Krishna himself doesn't force. So what to speak of us? So we can encourage, and the best way to encourage is through our own personal example. Hope that is that okay, Mother Raj?
Thank you, JP. I'm going to dip it in a little deeper, just a little deeper. Someone might say, someone's perspective may be, well, it's nice that maybe according to your nature, you might offer Srimad Bhagavatam class. However, what we really need is for you to do some physical service at the temple, because that's what's really needed, is for you to, physically be involved in the day-to-day service. So yeah, thank you for that perspective. Thank you for what you said, that Krishna doesn't force, but however, if there's a need, then how do we assist in that perspective?
And that is a real need. That's a real need. If I was in that position where I was trying to arrange services, for Radha Damodar, for the devotees, I would also want that. I would also want support. I would also feel encouraged if you did some service, and the more people serve, the more encouraged I would feel. And it would be challenging for me to say, to not feel that way, because it's a service that I'm doing, and I'm trying to, and it's a constant service, it's because you're always having to fulfill a service, right? So it's challenging. It's a constant challenge, and especially if there's people come and go. There's a lot of sometimes you have more manpower, sometimes you have less manpower, and woman power. But so I can empathize that. Yeah, that would be something that would be encouraging to me if I was in that position. The more the merrier, the more people get involved, and contribute in some way, physically, even if it's just sweeping the floor, coming and volunteering to wash pots, or any small thing. And if you could do it regularly, that's even better. And that relieves someone else who's doing so much physical service. So, and at the same time, if that was me, I would also have to understand that also other people have their own lives and their own struggles and their own services that they are doing. And these are also devotional services, valid services. It's not just, complete Maya out in the world, even though that may be there also at times, but people are actually engaged in their devotional service, hearing, chanting, reading. Everyone eats, and everyone offers what they eat. Right? That's a service, and people are doing that every day, right? As well as so many other services. So, I hope that adds a little more. Is that all right? All right.
Yeah, Prabhu, thank you so much. I appreciate so much your empathy, because so much of what's needed in our communities is for all of us to have more empathy. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Are we overtime? Are we? Who's who do I look to for that guidance there? Tarka Prabhu, I'm surprised you haven't shared anything this time.
I'm always hoping that there'll be others inspired to say something. I feel like I'm hogging the situation every day. But we are short of time. It's what do we have now? 8:08. I see the deity doors there. So I guess we'll have an opportunity to greet the deities any moment. I too would like to thank you for a very nice class. It's wonderful to hear from you. Don't get a chance to hear you speak too often. So when that happens, it's very nice.
Thank you.
I appreciate the other comments as well, Rajalila and Leela Kishore, who you hear from too often. It's nice to hear get some other perspectives on things. I like to hear from the devotees. Now, as you were saying, there's different points of view, and it's helpful to hear other people's perspectives and to consider things from their particular angle. You know, in the course of trying to understand Krishna, who is a many-faceted gem, there are so many angles to appreciate. We want to try to appreciate Krishna as completely as possible. Ourselves, we may be limited in our capacity, but when we hear from others, we get a chance to appreciate another angle that perhaps we had not considered. So it broadens our perspective, and that's part of the process of cultivating Krishna consciousness, developing our appreciation for Krishna, learning to understand and appreciate more and more about him. So I might appreciate one aspect and you might appreciate another, and someone else sees something else. We get together and talk about it, we get a much bigger picture. And the goal of Krishna consciousness, of course, is that we want to cultivate our love for Krishna. You can't love somebody that you don't know anything about. So the more you know about Krishna, the easier it is to love him. It becomes very easy to love him as you learn more. So we want to know as much about Krishna as we possibly can. We want to see all those different angles, all the facets of that gem. So I'm always enthused to hear the comments of as many other individuals as possible. Still, their lordships are hiding themselves.
If I may make one last comment, Jagannath Prabhu, from the chat. I don't
Sure.
know if that was Malati Prabhu, well, that was that wrote something there. However, she appreciated the class and she says, I will find ways to connect. I will try that today. She appreciated that point, find ways to connect. So I just wanted to, if that was her, just to acknowledge her and
Oh.
thank her for being here, if that's her.
Hare Krishna, Mother Malati, if that's you, please, please share something if you don't mind. Even if it's just
Yeah, hi Krishna. Good morning. My obeisances to all of you. I'm here on my phone. I generally I don't get to join these classes because it conflicts with the class where I am. But I saw yesterday's announcement that you were giving class, and I decided, well, this is the class I'm going to today. And I knew there would also be wonderful association included in this class. And thank you all so much.
yeah. I'm so humbled that you even came to this class. And if I had known that, I would have definitely asked that you give the class instead. Thank you for your
We all
presence.
need to hear. It doesn't matter where you, who you are, where you are. We all need to hear.
Yeah.
Would attend the classes given by his, at that point in time, pre-Kanishta. We were barely neophytes. Being called a neophyte was practically an accolade at that point. Prabhupada would sit and listen. So that for me was always a wonderful example. And what to speak of persons like yourself who have decades of dedicated devotional service under the guidance of Srila Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj.
Thank you, Mother. And thank you, Mother Rajalila, for noticing that. Any other last comment before we close?
Thank you very much. I really appreciated the class, and I was so happy that you're giving it, Dad. And I especially appreciate the point about goals and remembering our goal and trying to make some shifts in our conscience as much as we can to move towards that in the ways that we're able. So thank you very much.
Someone shared an example one time that it's like if you're a pilot, we're all pilots flying our own plane. If you're flying and you're going from, say, here to California, a slight degree shift, you might end up in, Montreal or something instead of Los Angeles, California. And so one is knowing where you're going, and then when you find yourself off track, you get back on. Like right now, we should be on track to give our attention to Sri Radha Damodar right now. Yeah. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Ki Jai.